In this section, we'll start diving into consonants. And if you have not watched the consonant video found in this week's discussion post prompt, that might be really helpful to do prior to watching this mini lecture. And the link is provided here, although it's also in your discussion prompt. We're going to begin with watching this brief segment from a YouTube video by English with Greg, and he does a really nice job of simplifying some of the phonetic symbols that are going to be more unfamiliar to you. And so let's watch this brief segment, and then we'll talk a little bit more about consonants.
Okay, so you want to know how to say a word in English. So you type it in the online dictionary and voila, there it is. There's the word in English, but how do you pronounce it? What can you do? You can look at the phonetic transcription. But there's a problem. These have symbols which are scary, that you don't know what they mean. Well, listen, I'm going to make the International Phonetic Alphabet really, really easy for you. And at the end of this video, I've got a little test for you, and I'm pretty sure you are going to be able to look at the phonetic transcription of words and know exactly how to pronounce them. So, let's go. Now, I'm Greg from EnglishWithGreg.com. On this channel, I teach advanced British English pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary to help you master English conversation. And this topic was one that was requested by quite a few of my subscribers. Basic phonetics. So, let's go. There are 44 sounds in English. That means there are 44 phonetic symbols that we need to know if we want to be able to look at a phonetic transcription of a word and know how to pronounce that word. Okay, 44 sounds a lot? Yeah, well, don't worry, because 24 of those are consonants, and for 16 of the consonants, the phonetic transcription is exactly as you would expect it to be. It is basically the letter that it usually represents in written English. For example, the T sound is like that, the D sound is like that, the G sound in Greg is like that, the R is like that, the F is like that, the B is like that. So we don't need to worry about that. If you read a phonetic transcription, you can easily understand 16 consonants without me teaching you anything. So of the 24 consonants, 16 are easy, you already know them, let's forget them. We just now need to look at 8, and 6 of those are scary, but they're not too bad. Here are the scary 6. This one looks a little bit like an S, right? But it's not an S. No, this one instead is the sh sound that we have in shop or ship or wash. Sh. So you can remember that because it's similar to an S, and the sound is very usually written with an SH. Sh, sh. The next scary one is this. Now, pronounce the last sound again, shh, and at the same time, I want you to vibrate your voice. Shh, that is this sound, and you find this sound in words like treasure, treasure, or pleasure, pleasure. But the next scary one is this. Wait a second, that's 2 letters, right? Well, yes, but it's actually just one sound. And it's actually the sound that we use at the beginning and the end of church, church. And in a similar way, the next scary one is this. Again, it's like 2 symbols, but it's actually one sound, and we already know the second one. I just told you, it's j. So what happens when we put the d sound before j? It sounds like j, j. It's the sound at the beginning of June and July, or at the end of the word bridge, bridge. Okay, the next scary one is this, but do you know in your language what the name of this Greek symbol is? It's theta in English, theta. And that's the sound that this represents. theta, like think or Thursday. Now this is the last scary one, but in my opinion it's a little bit similar to the theta, but it's not. Let's try vibrating our voice at the same time. And that is this sound. It's the sound in this and that. Okay, so they were your 6 scary ones, and there are 2 more which are not scary but confusing perhaps. We have this, and what happens when a word ends ng? Well, it sounds like this: shopping, going. It's a sound that starts being produced through the nose and finishes with a in your throat. And that is this symbol. If you see it, it probably just means that the word ends with ng. And the other confusing one is this, because it looks like a J, like June and July, but actually this represents the pronunciation of the letter Y, like yes and young, because as you know, the sound in June and July is that one. June, July. This one is y, yes, young, popular, popular. Okay, so we had 44 sounds, 24 were consonants, there were only 6 scary ones and 2 confusing ones, and the rest are vowels.
All right, I hope that was helpful as you begin organizing the symbols in your mind. So a consonant is a speech sound produced with a complete or partial obstruction to the airstream. We referred to it as constriction before, but essentially you're in some way obstructing the airflow that combines or that then combines with a vowel to form a syllable. And when we talk about consonants, we talk about 3 dimensions. Remember, when we talked about vowels, there were 4 dimensions. With consonants, there are 3. The place or where a sound is formed, the manner or how a sound is formed, and voicing, whether the vocal folds are vibrating. In the video, he referred to it as vibrating your voice, but really a more accurate description would be to turn on your voice, which basically means the vibration of the vocal folds. So just a minor distinction there. When it comes to place of articulation, we're going to primarily focus on 7 different terms that relate to the place of articulation in English. So bilabials, labial dentals, interdentals, alveolars, palatals, velars, and glottal consonants. And we'll talk about each one. So bilabials, of course, includes both lips, and you'll see there the b, p, m, w. And then the one that is showing that upside down W, it's really a regional variation. So if you see that, it's when English speakers add almost like a h before the w, like why or which or when. Now, I don't speak that way, and probably most people that you know don't, but it is a regional variation that sometimes is present. And so that would be the symbol that you would use. For labial dentals, you're using the lips and the teeth. And so the f in fat and the v in van are the 2 labial dental sounds in English. Interdentals are involve the tongue tip and the teeth, so the th in thin and the v in this. And like he said, in British English he called it the theta, but in American English usually we call it the theta symbol, and so that's what we would use for those interdentals. The alveolar sounds involve the tongue tip and the alveolar ridge behind your teeth. So that little bump behind your teeth is called the alveolar ridge. And so the t in to, the d in do, the s in su, z in zoo, l in lu, n in nu. And then this one is a variation for the double T or the double D. Sometimes it might be a single T or a single D. And it's termed a tap or flap. And it's what we do when we say words like butter or ladder, beauty, lady, that da 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 da, where there's that tapping movement at the alveolar ridge, which is why it's called a tap. The symbol there is what we would use instead of a T or a D, because you're not actually making a T or a D. You're doing ra, like butter, ra, ra, ra. The palatals, or sometimes called the post-alveolar sounds or consonants, involve the tongue blade. And remember, the blade is just behind the tip and the palate. So the symbols, the palatal sounds would be the sh in shoe, the j in rouge, the ch in church, the j in judge, the r in row, and the y in you. Now, the reason you see two symbols for R is because you will see both in different contexts. Sometimes people make a distinction and use the upside down R to show R, because in the symbol for the trilled R, like in Spanish, like r, rojo, sometimes the regular R is used for a trilled R, and so people sometimes will make a distinction and use the upside down R for the R, that retroflex R in American English. You will see both. So I generally use the regular R. I don't use the upside down one, but you may see it in different, in the literature or in different charts. You might see that instead of the regular R. And we have the velar sounds, where the tongue dorsum, or the back of the tongue, and the velum come together. So the k in key, the g in go, and then that ing in sing, which is called the engma. So that symbol in itself has a name. And finally, the glottal sound is where the vocal folds are involved, and it's way back in your throat, the h as in hat, and then that question mark looking symbol without a period. It's the sound that we make when we say words like mitten or kitten. That it's way back in your throat, and it's called a glottal stop. And so that symbol is what we use for the glottal sound.